Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele, and today we're going to have part two of our interview with Sammy. And so she was a fantastic interview, and in this episode, she's going to go into a group that she belongs to, and she's a producer of in metal. And more importantly, we're going to be talking about her book, Fearless, which, by the way, you're going to have a chance to win for free. Stay tuned to the end of this video. And thank you so much, guys. If you could please do me a huge favor, like and subscribe. And we've got a huge 2023 coming up. A ton of great series, including the Last of Us series, which is going to be going off in a few weeks. We got our perfect movies. We got our weekly roundup. We got our fan reactions. Ton of stuff. Stay tuned. So please enjoy, and I will see you later. Take care, guys.
So I know a big mentor is, and he actually connected us with Ken. So tell us your role in metal, please.
Yeah, so I've known Ken for the last 10 years, and I'm his executive producer for Metal International. It's a heart-centered group. It's a global international. And again, even though I told you I'm Mexican, Italian, Polish, I have all sisters. So not only Ken, but the metal community and even the internal team, they're all big brothers. And Jennifer and I, my big sister. So I'm the executive producer for his show. And I don't know if you knew the story about Ken Rutkowski. So I'm born from Chicago. He is too, but specifically in Orland Park area. And so just knowing, again, where you come from, right? So I feel like we have the same heartbeats, very almost similar upbringings, at least from the atmosphere. And how I met Ken was, remember how I told you after college I'm going to go to LA, right? So it was my spring break, my senior year in college. So a lot of my friends went to Cabo or, they all went to the international, but I was like, hey, I wanted to be ready for LA literally days after I graduated. So I went to LA during my spring break, stood at like a friend, she was like in college, let me like couch surf it. And anyways, I stood there and I opened up my laptop and I put production companies in LA and I cold called, emailed, sent my resume, boom, 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 boom. Out of all the over 50 plus people I reached out to, there were 4 people that answered. One of those 4 being Ken, but Ken wasn't the one that answered the phone. This is when he was in Santa Monica with Business Rockstars. I had an appointment set up. I walk in there, met his producer at the time. Ken rolls in with his bike. He's like, hey, what's your name? I said, Sammy. And I told him I'm looking for a job. He's like, all right, cool. Where do you live? I said, Chicago. He's like, wait. You're looking for a job when you don't even live here? And then it was just...
That's funny. So I know
that is what happened.
That's funny. That's funny.
So that's
it's just amazing how people meet themselves. Yeah. So I know you played sports growing up.
His radar.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And then how I reconnected with Ken is when the world shut down in early 2020. I got back on Ken's radar. He's like, Sammy, what are you doing? And this is when nothing was shooting. And I said, at the time I was working on the MTV 2020 code. You know how there's girl code, guy code? And I was just working on that, but was about to wrap up that project. And that was like my first remote project. He was like, Sammy, produce my show. And this is how I'm producing for the last 3 years with Ken and his Metal International community, or Metal Men.
Nice. I know you played sports growing up. So what did you play growing up, and what drove you to sports, and do you play sports today?
I like this question because it makes me go back to my childhood life. So my very first sport ever, believe it or not, was floor hockey. It was at a co-ed facility, and it was like this. It was called Mask. It was like Mike Almason's Sports Center, and they had all different type of sports. But my very first sport ever was floor hockey, and it was co-ed. And then having an older sister, we're about 4 years apart. Then she started doing basketball. I started doing basketball. Then, became the tomboy. I did tackle football, not flag, tackle football for 1 year at a park district. and then did volleyball. I did baseball instead of softball, so I wasn't too good at baseball, I must say that. Did softball and basketball. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Wow.
But enough where I think it was my parents kept us busy. And I think, having immigrant parents, whether they were really the second generation, is they kept us busy for us to, whether it's to stay out of the streets of Chicago, keep us busy for our development purposes, and just to, and also dance. That was another big part of my life outside of sports.
Nice. And I imagine that taught you teamwork, cohesion, camaraderie. So, I mean, when you're
collaboration.
Exactly. So when you're getting on a set with 50 or 60 people, and by the way, I know we're talking about sets a lot. She's done a lot of work, but those people that haven't never experienced being on a movie set, you're talking about 50 or 60 people. It's not just your actors and directors and DPs. There is a ton of crew. There are gaffs, there are best boys.
I would say
PAs.
average 100 people.
Yeah. So when we talk about teamwork, that's really where it, thrives. So if I know this is going to be kind of a tough one, but of all the shows, of all the people that you've, been with or seen or talked to, who, as far as stars, I know you said Tracy really stood out. Who were some of the other ones that really, made a good impression on you, I guess is the question.
One was Armadi Nolasco. I met him on, was it Deception? And Deception. And the reason why is, outside of it being one of my first positions dealing with talent, they were so understanding, but yet I was so good at it. And also he was so memorable to me that he was actually in my book. So not only did we work well together, but also he outside of the production world, we were able to connect as brother and sister, and to be like, hey, if I ask you a few questions, can you let me record it? And it ended up being in my book. So that was one person. Another person is Alan Maldonado. He was also in my book, and also from the last OG set. And again, going back to, I was talking about of treating celebrities like humans, or again, my upbringing, I become very protective with talent, whether I met them for a day or whether we're shooting on a 3, 4, 5, 6 month schedule. And it's because my upbringing and how I grew up and being Mexican, Italian, Polish. So those are other two that really come in mind.
Nice. It's a perfect segue. So a few years ago, Sammy put out this book. I mean, I want to say this outright. There are a lot of self-help books out there. Now, she has done, and I said this off air to her, she has done more right now in her life than most people do in a lifetime. I mean, she's traveled across the world. She has gotten she's gotten a DGA card, which in the industry, it's a huge deal. Okay? She's worked on some of the biggest shows in the world. Okay? So she actually, of all of that, she still puts a book out. And the title of this book is Fearless. And I got to say, when I was looking at it, I went, I know this pair. What is the acronym for? And I looked into the acronym and I went, oh, that's perfect. Tell us what the acronym Fearless stands for.
You got to actually have it right here. This is the cover of it.
Nice.
And you want to know how crazy this is connected? Do you know this was actually a picture of on the metal hike I was on? So that's okay. So I just want to put that out.
Nice.
All right. So the first F is family and friends. Second is energy. The A is awareness. R is risk. L is lessons. The E is for efforts. And then the last two are story and success. Nice. And those are, outside of the acronym itself, those are the chapter breakdowns as well. And outside of telling you a little bit about myself and my perspective, because even though I majored in communications, media, and theater, I minored in philosophy. So I have a passion of, perspective. So outside of getting a little bit of my perspective, I was able to interview people in the industry, the entertainment industry, so they're able to put their lens as well into my book.
So what drives somebody? I mean, most people will never write a book in their lifetime. I mean, I thought about it. I looked at the chapter breakdowns and tried it out. I'm like, no. Good luck with that. But I mean, how does somebody it's so driven? Because it does take, I mean, let's face it, most people start a project and then put it off to the side because life happens and never get back to it. How do you sit down and actually do something? And by the way, it's just an amazing accomplishment that she writes a book, but about self-help. What kind of as you were writing the book, what kind of self-reflection did it give you?
It was to remember where I come from and to realize how far I've come. Like my book, David, that's book 1, right? I'm living probably book 5 or 6 right now. So I have a lot of writing to do. But I think is one of my things I've learned about myself, and I don't say it whether it's good or bad, but I have a delayed reaction. So things don't hit me right away. So what I mean by that is when I lived in Bali by myself for 8 months, it didn't hit me until like 2-3 months being back in the States. Actually, while I was working on Only Murs in the building, I'm like, oh my God, I live by myself in a total different country. So I have a delayed reaction. So this book is one of my seeds and foundations, and to remember where I came from.
Nice. So you talked about so what do you think would be the next book we could see from you, hypothetically down the road? Or have you even thought about it?
I thought about it in a different lens, or I should say on a different stage. I feel that my next, I should say, documentary or story was I want it to be a TED Talk. I want it to be a limited series. I want it to be a movie. I want it to be a documentary. I want to see it on the big screen, because believe it or not, I love to read now. Before I didn't. And I feel like my language, and I feel like, not to say I represent the whole world, but I feel like there's something about having your story on cinematography versus a book right now is timely. And I feel like that is the next platform. I definitely have it that I want to do it, but I either want it to be like I said, limited series, TV show, documentary, or a TED Talk. I'd be honored. Or even a masterclass. Why not?
Nice. And speaking of, so I know you have 3 goals, and one of them is you just made mention to do a TED Talk. Another one is to do masterclass, and I have no doubts that you can do this. By the way, is winning an Oscar and an Emmy. I mean, to be honest with you, I could see you easily doing that in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
What I know. So everybody, and by the way, I'm not sponsored by them. So there is a thing out there called Masterclass. It is the best of the best of the best. So I got to ask, do you have Masterclass itself? And if so, who do you like to watch?
So with Masterclass I have not subscribed to it, but from the sizzles and just the caliber of people that have a Masterclass, I do my research, not only because working with Ken, but for example, let's connect it with production, Stranger Things, right? The brothers and how they wrote a script and they're willing to share from the beginning, middle, and end. Like that is beautiful, I think. Or to understanding yourself as a brand, Kris Jenner. Third thing, having dance background, there's Paris Goebel. Like, who would have thought she would have a masterclass? And I think it's just sky's the limit, and it doesn't matter what industry you're on. It's just how driven you are and meeting the right person. And we're really just one connection away. And I think it's important to tell people what you want. And I definitely learned that 2020, even though I've been in the industry as early as 2015, but I know not to be too direct. Like, so it's like day one meeting you, I know not to ask certain things, right? but it's just like, man, I'm just want to be direct with people, and but also take care of them as a human and a brother and a sister, but also tell them, hey, what I'm up to, because it's important to share your story.
And on that note, we're going to actually end the interview with Sammy. Fantastic. She's been fantastic. So we got one more part coming up for you guys tomorrow. So that's going to be that's going to be great to look forward to. So, we talked about a lot of stuff here. How she met Ken, her book and everything else, which you're going to have a chance to win here in a minute. I'm going to tell you how. And just everything else. So, if you want a chance to win her book, all you got to do is this. Follow me on the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter. Then, here's going to be the secret question. How long was she in Bali for? If you can tell me the right answer, what I'll do is going to be for the first 5 people, by the way. Okay? So, if you do that, we'll connect, and I will send you a copy of her book. Got it? So, it's an amazing, amazing book. Also, guys, do me a favor, like and subscribe this. We got a huge 2023 coming up. We have the Perfect Movie Series. We got the Roundup. We got the reaction videos. We got a couple more spoiler casts for the rest of this year. And I'm going to keep bringing you interviews like this. So, but yeah, stay tuned tomorrow for the last part of the interview with Sam. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you later.